Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. So in this video we are going to continue with the trailer build series. I know it's been a while since we've had a video for this. As remember the last video for the trailer build, we did the tongue extension and the hitch and roll trailer tongue mount. And then previous to that we upgraded the leaf spring system. So in this video what I want to do is I want to get the roof rack installed. As you can see here, I already have it kind of mocked up the way I want it. We are going to have to shorten some of these and then, drill into the actual box itself just to get these bolted in. So when I started doing this trailer build series, I wanted to keep it as cheap as possible. That means reusing parts that I already had laying around in the garage, and then also just cheap stuff that I could find on basically Facebook Marketplace. So a couple of pieces that I'm using, these pieces here, there's 6 of them all together. These are actually to the kit that I got for my RCI rack that went on the bed rack of the Gladiator. They attached kind of underneath these parts here. I've since then removed them because I didn't want the Gladiator rack sitting up so high, so I took those off, and they've just been sitting in my garage ever since. I'm like, well, I can actually use them for this project here. They have a little lip right here on them, so we can actually drill right into this, into the box, and then be able to bolt it down. The rails that I have, I originally was going to use like super struts, and I actually did pick some up. I ended up returning it because I did find this on Facebook Marketplace. These are aluminum roof racks I forget exactly what roof rack it came off from, but a gentleman had extra of them, and I bought 4 4-foot sections for 40 bucks. So I thought it was a really good deal, and that's what we're going to use to build our roof rack with. So the overall design of this is going to be very simple. Basically, these are just to secure it in place and kind of elevate it a little bit, just because I did want it a little bit higher so I could put, stuff underneath here when I'm, traveling. Essentially what we're going to do is there's 2 mounting points for these brackets. There's one that's kind of right on the side here, and then there's one right on the top here. So we're going to drill into here, we're going to drill into here, and then put bolts through so this will hold in place on each one of them. There's 6 altogether. And then for these, what we're going to do is we're going to drill holes right through here and then drop a couple bolts through the bottom and then bolt those down. And then we're going to do that for each one of them. So theoretically, it should be a very strong base to put the rooftop tent right on the top of it. All right, so let's get to it. So I went through and I marked where I need to drill all my holes, so I'm going to go ahead and remove these, and then we'll get those holes drilled, and then we'll set these back on top and then get those bolted into place. Okay, so I have the first one on, held in by these 2 bolts. I mean, it's solid, it's not going anywhere. So now that we got our first bracket on, we're going to go ahead and shift our attention to the other 5. so now that we have all 6 of these on there and tightened down with 2 bolts apiece, we need to get the rack part on, line it up, and then we're gonna drill holes down in the center part of these portions of it to line up with the rack. So I just took a quick measurement. The box is 46 inches by 46 inches. These here are actually 50 inches. So what I'll probably do is just have 2 inches hanging off the front, 2 inches hanging off the back, and then do the same for the ones that go side to side as well. We'll start with that. If it doesn't look good or if I don't like it, I can always just chop off the ends later on down the road. All right, so these are roughly 2.5 inches. So my center point's gonna be right around 1 1/4 inch. So right around there, so we're gonna mark that, and then that way we can try to line up these the best we can. That's about as lined up as we're gonna get it. We got about 2 inches overhang on this side, 2 inches hanging off the back end, and then that spot that I marked is perfectly lined up in the middle. So now with our 2 sides equally lined up, we need to go ahead and put the top bars on, make sure those are aligned correctly, and then we can mark our spots and drill our holes. Alright, so now that I have everything lined up, I want to get this drilled into without having it move at all. So I have an assortment of clamps, clamping tools. I'm just going to try to keep this thing from moving as much as possible before I start drilling into it. So what I did there was I initially drilled through this top piece and then realigned everything back up, just make sure everything was where it needed to be. And then I drilled through the second piece, realigned everything back up, and then drilled through the bottom piece. Now theoretically, when I stack these back on top of each other, they should all line up. We should be able to drop the bolts right through. So I got the first bolt to drop down through. I'm just snugging this up right now. That way it'll be a good kind of anchor point, so when I'm drilling into the other 4 sides, they don't shift around so much. All right, so we got our front bar secure in place. And I'm gonna put 2 more, or a bolt more on each side. Basically, these are just the first bolts that are gonna hold as place setters. We're gonna get the back ones started in place, and then like I said, each side will be held on by 2 bolts each. All right, so I measured out this side as well. It all is measuring evenly. We can go ahead and start drilling our holes out over on this side. So now that I have a bolt in each one of the corners, we can go ahead and start putting more bolts in. Now we don't have to measure every single time because everything is just kind of locked in place. It's still a little loose at the moment just because I didn't tighten everything down just yet. We're going to put a bolt down through the middle ones and then one more bolt on each end. Alright, that is the last of the 10 bolts that are holding this thing together. So 2 on each end, 1 in the middle. The next step is I'm going to clean some of this area up and then we're going to sit the rooftop tent on here and see how that looks. Alright, as you guys can see, this thing is on there. I mean, it is permanently part of the trailer now. It's, you know, moves the whole trailer when you move the rack. So yeah, I think I have 1 of 2 options with the rooftop tent. So I can hard mount it to it directly to the tent itself, or I could use the crossbars that came with the tent. My plan for this trailer is I'm probably just going to put that tent on this and just leave it on it permanently. So I think I'm just not even going to use those bars and just hard mount it right to the bottom of the tent. So as you guys can probably tell, this rooftop tent is longer and slightly wider than the trailer. So I think I'm going to have the part that's longer kind of go out the front end here because the back end is where my kitchen is going to be at. And I'm thinking I might eventually add like an awning or something to the back side of it. So the tent is just going to be more forward facing. And like I said, it is a little bit wider than the trailer. This is probably the orientation I'm going to have this Alpha rooftop tent, and this is the Alpha 2, by the way. And then the other side is where the rooftop tent is going to open. This rooftop tent opens to the passenger side. So I think that's probably going to be about where it's going to sit. I do want to get it outside though, open it up just where it's sitting right now and just make sure there's no impingement or anything like that anywhere before we go ahead and bolt it down. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up the install on the roof rack and the rooftop tent on the Overland trailer. Make sure you stay tuned for the next episode.